One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Welcome, Fiona, to the podcast. Do you want to tell us your whole name or do you want to just be Fiona?
I'm Fiona de Mezzo.
That's such an Italian sounding name for an Australian.
Does it mean of the middle?
Yeah.
It's very musical, isn't it, Mel?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. Fiona of the Middle Earth.
Hobbitland.
We have Fiona, a hobbit, here with us. Where do you live?
I live in Canberra in Australia. So it's like the, I guess, equivalent of Washington.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a government town.
When we were in Australia, one of the times I was meeting people from there and I said it about 5 times. And every time I said it, they said, you're saying it wrong. I was like, Canberra. And they were like, no. And I was like, Canberra. And they were like, nope. And I was like, I give up.
Wait, what does it say it again?
I just say Canberra.
Canberra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it right. And they laughed
If you
at
go
me.
Canberra,
Yeah, maybe
people
that's-
might look at you a little bit funny, but that's okay.
So if it's like the Washington, D.C., but of Australia, do people wear suits everywhere? Is it very fancy as far as that stuff goes?
Look, I think there's definitely a lot of people who do wear suits, but not everyone. But I would say, like, compared to other cities, there's a lot of sort of employment with the government type work going on.
Fiona, are you a spy? Yes or no?
I wish I was. That would be such a cool job. No, I'm not. I work for the Department of Health.
Oh, that sounds cool too, but I'm kind of glad you're not a spy because then maybe she's spying on us, Mel.
You know what? There's not a lot to find.
Well, if I was a spy, I would know so many things. But would I ever tell you?
I don't know. What do you like to do in your non-spying time, Fiona?
In my non-spying time, I ride my horses.
What?
Horses?
How many do you
Yeah.
have? Can you ride more than one at a time?
I mean, I wish I was that talented. I'm not that balanced or flexible.
Yeah,
So that
flexible.
could be a problem. So I've got 3 at the moment. A mare that was meant to be my next competition horse, and then she went and basically had a career-ending injury.
Oh.
So at the moment, she's a very expensive paddock ornament that we're hoping to get in foal at some point. So her name's Bling. She's very pretty. And then there's my Asher, my daughter's pony, called Josh.
Josh the horse.
Josh the pony, yeah. He's very cute. And then I've got my sort of current riding horse called Reggie, and he's really tall and dark and handsome, and he doesn't talk back. So
Is
lovely.
he your boyfriend right now?
Totally.
What kind of competitions do you do?
Well, I used to do a lot of show jumping. So that's where you just jump stuff and you don't necessarily have to look pretty, but you need to get around and not knock anything down and try and go quickly. But I guess as of the last 5 years, I've definitely sort of backed off from doing that, mainly because I haven't had the right horse to do it with. So at the moment, I just kind of ride around and, have fun, do low-level stuff.
Do you wear those pants with like the pointy hips on them?
I have no pointing hips, but And also the pants are not flattering, just putting it out there. No one
What?
looks good in like the we call them jodhpurs or breeches. No one looks good in them. It's just an accepted part of it.
Yeah, who made those up?
Why did they make those with those like the hip part that like is pointy outy?
I don't know.
Like,
I
what's the
think they're just
function of
mean.
that?
Maybe they create an illusion of spikes, like Ben-Hur in the chariot, except for spikes on your hips.
Okay, this is what I think. I think that they were like, these horse people are crazy and they will buy anything. And so let's just make these silly pants so that we can charge them more money and they will do it because
Yeah,
they
that
have
tracks.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Probably
We're
like
all
a queen in Britain wore them or something or designed them, right?
yeah.
Maybe.
Some stupid person did it, and then they just decided that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like
Let's do
white
that.
pants where you're surrounded by dirt and mud, and you can fall in crap. Amazing.
Fiona, do you take care of your horses all by yourself? Because that's like a lot of effort and work.
Well, not anymore. So, like I used to do it all, but at the moment I have a big village of people who do a million different things that basically lets me continue doing what I love. Like it's pretty special. So I have someone who'll basically feed evenings from Monday to Friday for me, and then I've got someone who does morning feeds from Monday to Wednesday, and then I do basically the weekend and Thursday and Friday mornings.
Okay. You need to teach those horses to make their own sandwiches. Then life will be
Yeah,
better.
this is true. This is very true.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Sure. So it's me and I've got two children. I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old,
Mhm.
and it's sort of we're navigating the pre-teen era, which is full of lots of wonderful surprises and challenges, as I'm sure you understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So
Yeah.
you're also missing a person in your family, I'm guessing, since you're on our podcast.
Certainly, certainly am. I'm missing Wayne, the kid's dad and my husband.
Like John Wayne of Australia,
He would love that. He would have loved that. No, just Wayne.
just Wayne.
How old are
Just
you, Fiona?
me. I almost lose track. Is that a bad thing? I'm 41. I'm about to turn 42. So I think I'm entering the mid 40s era where I'm just going to forget how old I am until I'm 50.
I think that's totally fair.
Yep. And then when you turn 50, you'll be 30
Yeah,
forever.
absolutely. By then there'll be some drug or pill I can take that'll just reverse all the aging.
It's going to be a peptide for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Fiona, tell us more about John Wayne, not John Wayne, but Wayne.
Wayne was funny. He was charismatic. He could talk to anyone. He could talk in front of anyone without any prep. Um, he was always at any wedding or function, he was the one that would be dancing shamelessly and having the best time. He cared about people, but he also wasn't afraid to stand up to them if they needed to sort of be pulled into line in his personal or work life. He rooted for the underdog. He always loved the villain in any movie.
Really?
100%. Yeah, 100%. In any movie, I could always guarantee if I was to ask what the favorite character was, it would always be the villain, without fail. Loved it. He had a really interesting music sort of taste. It was very eclectic. Like he liked country music, but then he'd have, like rap, hip hop, rock, classical. He had everything. Like he used to tell a story of if he was at work and he was really mad, he'd put in on classical music in his office. And if someone sort of came into his office with the classical music, they knew that they were in trouble because maybe he was channeling some super villain or something. I'm not sure.
Kind of sounds like it.
Yeah.
Where did you find Wayne?
Oh, well, that's a really funny story. Well, it's not funny, but so my best friend, she was dating this guy. I hated him. I thought he was an idiot.
He was a villain.
Yeah, well, no, he was not a villain, but he
Oh,
kind
because
of.
was it Wayne?
I wasn't a fan of him.
Oh,
But
no.
anyway, one day she was telling me about his friend, and essentially saying how his previous girlfriends had been short, blonde, rode horses, and he was never allowed to date any of them ever again.
But wait,
It's
that's you, Fiona, right?
kind of, yeah.
I don't know how
And so
tall you are, but we know you ride horses. We can see your hair. So,
I'm not tall. I was not blessed with long legs.
okay.
Um, so basically, she just thought it was um, a really funny idea if we somehow were introduced to each other. So we went out one evening to go play pool, and like I was already in a little bit of a shirty mood because I just didn't like the boyfriend, to be honest. So I was there just to play pool, hang out with my best friend, and these two guys just happened to be there. That was sort of my mentality. And realistically, I didn't really pay him any attention for most of the night until towards the end, my friend and her boyfriend started having a bit of an argument and they sort of moved to the side. So that kind of forced me and Wayne to start talking. Um, and somehow, really early in the conversation, he told me what his last name was. And I just thought he was joking because so my maiden last name was Little, like small. So I was
Okay.
Fiona Little. And he had introduced himself and said that his name was Wayne Large.
No way.
Yeah. And so I thought he was just teasing me and being mean. So I, kind of was like, yeah, thanks, mate. Like, you're full of it. But he showed me his ID, and sure enough, his last name was Wayne Large.
Now I'm confused.
Because where's the middle? Where's of the middle?
At that point, I I sort of was like, oh, I kind of get along with him, but like he has bad hair. I'm not particularly interested. Like I always paid him out later, saying it looked like someone had stuck like a bit of roadkill or like a raccoon on his head because he had really lovely dark hair, but somehow they'd like tried to bleach bits of it and it looked a bit stripy. And anyway, I just like he has bad hair. I'm not interested. Anyway,
Dead
so
raccoon.
for whatever reason, he really liked me, and I was just a bit meh about him. When me and my best friend, happened to, go out to the city and go to a pub or a club or whatever, he sort of happened to be there, obviously, because he was apparently wanting to, spend more time with me and get to know me. After a few sort of times that we hung out, at the end of the night, this is after, I suppose, a bit of a sneaky kiss at the club after however many drinks of whatever we had. I was 21 at the time, putting it out there. And my friend was like, oh, are you going to get his number? And I just kind of stopped for a minute and I looked at him and I went, oh, if he wants it, he'll find it anyway. And I just kind of walked away. Like I wasn't even purposely playing hard to get. I mean, that's generally not my style, but I was just like, yeah, if he wants it, he'll get it. And I just kind of walked away. So he then, apparently I was the first girl he ever actually asked out. So he then had to call my best friend, or he had to call his friend to get my best friend's number. And then he had to call, he had to call multiple people basically just to get my number. So, the boy put in some work.
Good. He needed to
And
earn that.
and did the dead raccoon on the head situation improve with your influence?
I mean, I don't even think it was necessarily influence. I don't even think he really liked it. But I think, I think that's the thing with his hair. It was reasonably short. So, a bad haircut is only really, maybe a month or two and it's gone.
Yeah, for boys, that's totally true.
Yeah. So, like, the raccoon situation was not a long-term thing we had to contend with, thankfully.
You know what's so funny is that Jason also had that situation going on when I met him. His hair looked, I said it looked like a Wolverine because he had like bleached the top of his head, but it was kind of growing out. And so it was like blonde on the top and then dark underneath. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's weird hair. But I didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I eventually didn't care. But yeah, essentially, once we went on that first date, that was it. We were just, next weekend I got introduced as his girlfriend and I was sort of looking at him going, really? But I was like, oh, okay. I liked him, but I was sort of just happy to, I know, I just quite liked him. And we just went from there. And, within a month, he, I think, decided he loved me. And when he said he loved me, it was very early in the piece too. um, my response was, "That's nice," which is probably not that's probably not the response you want when you're saying that. Um, but like, I guess for context, he was my first like proper boyfriend that I ever sort of brought home to my parents. You know what I mean? So I was, I guess, a little bit surprised that someone would feel that way about me so quickly. And I didn't ever want to break up with him, but I definitely had a few moments where I think being 21, first serious relationship, and the guy's like, "Yep, you're it." There was a few moments I think where I was sort of a bit nervous and looking for the door, trying to be like, "Is this what I want? I don't know. This seems pretty serious." That was it. Moved in together within a year or two. He'd proposed probably, I think I was about 24 when he proposed. And then I guess this is where I can go back to the last name thing. So
Yes.
I know this is quite the story. So essentially I spent my entire life being Fiona Little, being a very short little girl. I did not want to be Fiona Large. Like, I felt like that was tempting fate. I don't know. I just didn't want to be Fiona Large. And I told him that much. And we talked about it. We didn't think hyphenating the name would work. Little Large, that would probably.
It would be great if your middle initial were the letter A. Fiona, a little large.
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't heard that one. But essentially, in the end, I'm like, look, I'm not going to be large. It doesn't make sense for me to remain little because that also will be really confusing later on. So we kind of decided to just change our last names.
You just made it up?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, he did. I basically said, "You make it up. It can't be worse than large. Go."
You can do that?
Yeah, just like anyone. You can change your name.
It's so funny because I've never thought about like just changing your last name for funsies. Like I know people do their first name and I know people change their last name all the time when they get married or divorced or whatever, but
And in the middle. So that's the last name story.
that's my favorite story I think I've ever heard.
That's the best name story. I was fully expecting him to be Italian.
I guess the history behind that is, I suppose, he didn't really have a relationship with his biological father growing up, whose last name he had. So I think at the time it maybe didn't have the same meaning as it may have for other people, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that maybe worked in my favor for not ending up Fiona Large. But essentially, we didn't tell anyone the name that we picked until sort of the reception of the wedding. And it was like a big kind of part of the.
Hey guys, just checking in and want to say if you are enjoying this podcast
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt you can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
It's like having a baby and getting married at the same time. Like you had the name reveal and then
Yeah,
the
a little
launch
bit.
as a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think so we got married. So there was a 7-year age gap. So I think I was about 26 at the time. I guess our relationship it was always so easy. It was just like being with my best friend. And we both had, very different interests. He was not a guy that was particularly interested in horses. He tolerated them. He learned how to hold them when needed. He knew how to do a stable when needed. Or if I think the first event I took him to, I said, the only rule is if I have a really bad show jumping round, give me half an hour just to cool off and then I'll be fine. And if I fall off, catch the horse. And I'm pretty sure it was an event that went over a few days. I'm pretty sure he had both of those situations happen at different points in time.
When was this that you guys met and got married and all
Oh,
of the things?
so we got married in 2010, and I did that. We kind of decided on that year purely because we figured it would be really easy to track in the
Hmm.
future how long
Hmm.
we'd been married. So when we sort of thought, oh, we're going to go and get married in, 2009, 2010, I'm like, no, no, 2010. It'd be so easy to know the date. So that was what we did. I was never unsure about him, but I just didn't have this burning desire or like need to get married straight away. I was like, yeah, we'll get to it. Like if we have forever, what matters? What's a year? I mean, the irony of that now, right? But
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm glad it was at least, we had a fair bit of time. So, we were married for 12 years. And, for the most of it, it was really good. So, we've had two children. We had our own individual interests, but we always sort of, just came together at the end of the day and hung out. And that's just what worked for us. We had our own friendship groups. It wasn't one of those situations where your identity is completely about you as a couple and all your friends are couple friends. Like it wasn't that kind of situation. We were both very independent, but we both also just trusted each other implicitly. So it just worked. It was good. I could go away to a horse show for a week and he'd, do whatever he was doing. And it never bothered either of us, you know, it just worked.
So
Um,
before we started recording, we had all sorts of issues getting to this actual recording because of time zones and other issues. But you told us that today was actually the third anniversary of him dying.
yeah, yeah. So I suppose the story behind that one. So he died of cancer.
Mm.
It's a rare cancer called thymic carcinoma. It's a 1 in a million type of cancer that apparently a lot of oncologists will never see in their time practicing. So it sort of starts in the thymus gland or the thymic gland, which is this little gland that you have growing up that shrivels and turns into essentially nothing as you become an
Yeah.
adult.
I was gonna say it doesn't even like it's not even a thing as you
Yeah,
are big, but his
yeah,
decided to be there and kill him.
yeah, yeah. What a jerk, right?
It's so
It's true
weird.
cancer.
I mean, he sounds like 1 in a million, so the cancer's got to be 1 in a million, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did joke if it was kind of like the anti-lotto, so we were kind of hoping that there could be an the universe would have some way of balancing that out, but
Nope.
we haven't seen that yet.
I'm
Um,
I'm super curious what were like the symptoms that brought him to get that checked out because I mean it doesn't
yeah,
do anything, so
so he was an asthmatic, so he always was on a preventative inhaler. Him having a cough for like chest related symptoms was not unusual. But what I would say, and this is, I guess, where it gets a bit tricky. So I think 2 years before diagnosis, there was a shift in him. Like before that, we had always, like, we never fought. We were just everything was easy. There was never an issue. And 2 years before diagnosis, something shifted. It was like he was suddenly more irritable, more tired, more stressed with work. His cough, he had a cough that was persistent and it just was there all the time. And like at the time, so this is 2 years before diagnosis, I just remember multiple times just being like thinking, what's happened? Like, I don't recognize this person. He's different. Like there was, you know, like hindsight, I think there was probably a third thing in our marriage for a long time before we knew what it was or what to call it. But the 2 years before diagnosis were hard. And I think I was resentful because I kept saying, you need to get this checked out. You need to go to the doctor, and he would go to the doctor, but having been in an appointment with him now, I know that he would have potentially minimalized his symptoms or admitted probably some pretty key facts in that appointment. But he would have always said, I've got this cough or my asthma's playing up really badly. So he did go to the doctor, but it wasn't our regular general practitioner. It was sort of like a doctor that was quite close to his work, where I suppose it's you know, go in, get what you need, get out, with maybe not a holistic view of someone's health. So, he just went in, got some medication that he thought would fix it, get out, because that was convenient, right? And this went on for 2 years. So, like I say, I think I was frustrated and I was a bit resentful because, like, you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And in my view, he wasn't doing everything that he could to help himself. I think part of that might have been he maybe knew there was something there and he was scared. I'm not sure. 2 years before diagnosis were sort of, I would say, the hardest of our marriage in many ways because he was a different person. I think he was exhausted. He was emotionally checked out. And now we know why. January 2022, he was like abnormally unwell. Like it was like he had a fever. At this point, he'd actually lost weight as well. Now he was like 6 foot and he was always a reasonably slender human, but but he always would joke he could put on weight and lose weight quite quickly without any effort, like a little bit annoying, really, if for someone who, wants to try and help, like try and work to be, a particular, size or whatever. He just would, eat well for a few weeks and bang, that's where he was. Or he'd, eat poorly on a holiday and, just eat junk food the whole time and he'd beef out. But he was very much in control. Shortly before diagnosis, he just dropped a lot of weight. Like it was a lot of weight. And it was to the point where on his chest, there was like this little bump on his sternum. And it was just really odd. And I remember thinking it was weird. And this is also around COVID time as well. And he worked in a hospital. He was in like the administrative side. So he was considered an essential staff, like worker. So he was always at the hospital. And I just kind of initially we just sort of thought, oh, maybe it's stress. But there was this persistent cough. And like there was this part of me that was genuinely worried. And I remember thinking one day when I was just driving, if he gets COVID, he's going to die. And I remember like actually thinking like what it would be like being a widow. So so the one day when he was particularly unwell, like he just took himself to the doctor, and we just thought, oh, it's just another chest infection. And he calls me from the car, and he says, the doctors told me to go straight to the emergency department. He did a full examination and he's felt something like in my abdomen. And I've been the doctors have given me a letter. I need to go to hospital now. So this was, I think, the kid's first day of school, back at school. So he came home. I organised for my mum to come to be at home with the kids. And I drove his car, which also, can I say, was stressful because it was a shiny Mercedes. I always called it his midlife crisis car because it was just like his shiny car that I never touched, was never allowed out of the horses, and here I was driving like the love of his life. It was storming, so I was also like stressed because it was storming. I'm driving the car. Wayne's, sick, and I'm like, what the hell is going on with him? So just driving there was stressful for obvious reasons and not obvious reasons because I really didn't want to crash the car. So I get him to the emergency department and I wasn't allowed in with him because it was COVID. So we sort of, said our goodbyes kind of at the, ED door, and he walks in, and then he spoke to someone in the at the counter, and he gave them the letter, and they basically said, you need to come straight in. And he said, quick, I just need to quickly tell my wife who's waiting out there what's happening. So, he just said, oh, I'm going straight in. And then at that point I was in my head, I'm like, uh-oh, Like I was already kind of thinking there was something bad, but I don't know, just how quickly they let him in and I guess triaged him, that kind of sent some alarm bells.
Did you read the letter? Was it like
Nah,
s
it was sealed.
sealed? Okay, because I would be like, I have to read what's in that letter. You can't send me with this
Yeah.
secret missive.
Is it? Oh man, I mean, I'd be a terrible spy.
Yeah, you would be a terrible spy. Because whatever in that letter was making them like, this is bad.
Yeah,
Oof.
like he was sending me text messages from the hospital saying, "Oh, they're sending me in for, an X-ray and an X-ray of everything." And then at 8:30 that night, he called and he just said, "So they've found like several shoot like masses in my chest." Um, and and he was terrified. He was really scared. And funnily enough, that I don't know who it was, but the staff at the hospital said I was allowed to come back and go in with him. And at that point, I was also thinking, oh crap, this is bad. They don't just let people in the ED in this current pandemic environment. Like, this is not good. And I was already thinking, oh my God, it's cancer. But, just the fact they, you know, said I could go back in, I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
is really scary. So, you know, luckily I had my parents at my house, so I could just drive straight back to the hospital. And I went in, and he was just like, he was terrified, and he was sitting upright, but he was breathing as if he'd just like run a
And
marathon.
you said this was in 2022, right? In January. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm doing the math right now. It's not great.
No, it wasn't. So what happened there is, so I stayed with him in the hospital for a little bit, but then um I kind of, I don't really know why I left. Like in hindsight, I probably should have maybe thought of staying, but I didn't. But I just sort of, I felt like he was okay at this point, like his breathing had sort of settled. I guess, like, I don't know how much you can comfort a person when they've just been told that there are multiple, you know, masses in your chest. Like I went home, and the next morning, I he messaging me because again, I wasn't technically supposed to be at the hospital, and he said that they were moving him up to one of sort of the oncology wards because we sort of had kind of assumed that it was some type of cancer. But obviously it was too early. Like he hadn't even been admitted for 24 hours. Then, roughly at the same time that following day, where he'd initially gone to the GP, I get a call from a nurse saying, "You need to come into the hospital right now." One of the nurses in ICU came down to basically get me. And they wouldn't really tell me much. And then I get up there, and he's in this like little discreet room in like the intensive care unit. And at this point, he's got like this full like oxygen mask that's like stuck to his face kind of thing. And that's going, and he's like got no shirt, and there's all these like monitors on his chest. And so then and he had like multiple doctors there with him, and multiple people were there. And at that point, they said that he was in respiratory failure, and they needed to intubate him. Or I think that's the right term. But they he was also in peri-arrest, and they didn't think that his heart would survive being intubated. So they basically said, you need to say your goodbyes. They said, we need to intubate him so he can get oxygen, but to get oxygen and to intubate him, we think that this is likely to cause
Wow.
his heart to give out. So at that point, I thought I was saying goodbye to my husband. Surreal, heartbreaking. I remember thinking, how am I going to tell my children their dad's just died? Um, and he couldn't talk because he had this whole like Darth Vader type
Yeah.
thing on his face. So he's like texting me his last words. You know what I mean? And then I'm, just crying and, I'm gonna cry and telling him all the things. And then we just sort of sat and listened to music. Um, and
Was
then
it classical?
no, no, I
Okay.
Was it Swedish death metal? No pun
mean,
intended.
Ramstein. I think it was just like some soft rock, just like some easy kind of chill
Yacht rock.
music.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just sat there and I just held his hand and we thought that was our last time together, but it wasn't. So in that time that I was sitting there, for some reason, his everything seemed to kind of like settle. Like at one point I went out, so the cardiologist had came out and I sort of asked, she was this German lady. She was very like efficient. I could tell it. Like I loved her. I know she'd be a lady with lists. And I said, please just tell me completely straight up, is he going to survive this? And at that point, she'd said, I will be so shocked if your husband is alive in the morning. Once we
Holy
Whoa.
cow.
like they literally thought they just thought once we intubate him, there's no way he's going to live. Like that was like, and so I had like there was a social worker there. Like there was like they genuinely like they said, do you want your last rites? And he's like, nah, why would I do that? I don't believe in God. So, like it was, we genuinely thought that was our last time together. And I stayed there for hours and hours and hours. And then I don't even know what time it was. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And they said, um, we don't need to intubate him. He's everything's kind of settled. And so it was like we'd had this near death experience together, and we genuinely thought, like all the medical people were just so sure that that was it, and it wasn't.
I have this very specific visual in my mind, and it's from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it's like the guy on the cart, and he's like, "I'm not dead yet. I got better."
Yeah.
It's only a flesh wound.
Also,
Wayne, I got better.
oh, that's 100%. He would love that. He loved Monty Python. Yeah. So like, yeah, somehow he lived. And so again, I stayed there until about midnight, and the doctors and everyone were like, no, no, we think he's okay. And so at this point my children were going, what's happening with dad? They were terrified. So I said, I need to just be home when they wake up. I just need to be there to give them some reassurance. But I remember I drove home and I called my best friend, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And I said, and I told her everything that happened. And I said, so I was 30, I think I was 38 at the time, 39. I don't know. I was late 30s. Maths is hard. And I just said, I think I'm going to be alone on my 40th birthday. I think he's going to be dead. And I just knew it. It was like in the core of my gut, I was like, this is not going to be like one of those long-winded or long stretch situations. I just had this intense feeling that, this was not going to be that. Um, but anyway, thankfully he didn't have another sort of situation where he crashed like that, but he was in ICU for a little while. And like I walked into the hospital the next day, he's just sitting up, he's charming the nurses, he's charming
I
everyone.
got better.
He's having a laugh, and I'm just sitting there going like, what? Like, I'm not ready for this roller coaster. Like this is a lot, and like everyone was just so shocked that he had pulled through.
So, Fiona, I have a question for you because it's if the math in my head is correct, he only lived like 9 months, 10 months, no, after diagnosis. So, and I'm guessing since he had cancer, we know that cancer treatment is not fun. Did you ever consider that maybe it would have been better that he had died after you had the hand holding and the soft rock? Or was the suffering that came after worth it for the extra time?
Look, I think we would both agree it did two things. I think it was worth it because it allowed us to manage how we were able to navigate this with the kids. It allowed us to navigate it together. It allowed us to have very like intentional conversations and like really think, how the hell are we going to do this. So he it allowed us to sort of take time for that and do it in a way that we wanted to do it. And also, quite frankly, like the 2 years prior to diagnosis, like I said, like it had not been our typical way of being. He was happier after his cancer diagnosis because he was on so many meds that took away all these symptoms. And suddenly he was like almost back to his own old self in many ways. And I was like, there's my husband again. There was just this third person in our relationship for 2 years that we didn't invite, that none of us knew were there. Him almost dying, that was the biggest wake up call. Like, it just was like, you know what, all this crap that we were worried about every day and these trivial things that we may bicker about, or, like from his perspective, he was very career focused and he loved his job. And I loved that about him. But it also gave him like a solid wake up call on like, actually, it's my family that matters. That's where I need to kind of, be putting my attention into. That's what defines me. It's not my job, it's my family.
Yeah.
And that's maybe something that he never, I mean, neither of us did. It's not something that was, I suppose, apparent to us until, you know, you're faced with almost dying and you're like, oh, wow, actually, we know exactly what matters.
I'm proud of you guys though, because we know people who have that and then they still just like choose to believe that everything, like we had our one scary moment and so we don't need to change anything. We don't, So, but you have a pretty unique experience in that you had the near death experience on the front end of the cancer and then the cancer after. So that's kind of a unique way to do it.
Mid-November, we went on a big holiday to all the theme parks. It was lots of fun. I will say it's hard making memories when someone's sort of really struggling. By this point, he was on so many medications. Like, I'm glad he got to do that. But I think there's a bit of a stereotype that when you're dying, it's like, oh, yay, make memories. But the reality behind the scenes is a lot different. Like, he was putting on a very brave face for the children, but he was also really struggling as well. It was really hard. When someone's dying, it's almost like there's this pressure to make memories. By this time, he was really unwell, and like I could see it, he could feel it. And then the next day, he went in for a blood test, and within the week, he was essentially, well, not even the week, within days, he was told your liver's completely failing now. And when we had an appointment with our palliative care nurse, she suggested that we celebrate an early Christmas because she said, we don't know, I don't know if you're going to make it to Christmas, but even if you're alive, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to participate. So we ended up, like, I think it was like a day or two later, having like an impromptu family Christmas, sort of slightly against medical advice. He was like, I'll try anything. Give me some chemo. I'll try chemotherapy again. He said, if it gives me another day, it's worth it. That was his sort of mentality. So he went in and he had what was to be his last dose of chemotherapy. He came home complaining of a sore ankle. And he was like, I can't walk my ankle. I twisted it. And I'm looking at him being like, again, I'm so mean. I was like, oh, being such a sook. Like, you're fine. Yes, it's sore. Okay, we will manage it. But he'd just been enrolled into a palliative care program that we have where the nurses come to your house. The nurse came on the Monday, and then on the Tuesday, it was in the afternoon. It was just another day, 6th of December, trying to get all the things done. The kids had swimming lessons in the afternoon, and and his ankle was still sore. He was barely able to actually move. And I said to him, oh, look, I need to take the kids to swimming. Do you need to pee? Because at this point, I was sort of like assisting him to go everywhere because he couldn't walk properly because of his ankle. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, yeah, I'll do that. So he's really tall. And so I'm just kind of helping him down the hallway. And the next thing I know, he collapses. It's like he trips and falls on his own feet. And then I said, oh, look, my friend's down the road. I'm going to call her really quickly. She can come and help you get up, and then we can probably we can take you somewhere. The next thing I know, he's just looking at me and he just says, call the palliative care nurse. And that was his last words he ever said.
Hmm.
And then the next thing I know, he essentially just kind of loses consciousness in my arms. that is the point he actually died. I didn't know it at the time. At this point, I'm looking at him going, oh, like, so I'm thinking, I'm just like calling the paramedics, I'm doing CPR, and I'm sort of doing CPR in the hallway. And I look up and I've got the CPR, like the lady on the other side, like, talking me through the compressions. And my daughter is just standing in the hallway looking at me, just seeing this event
Mm.
unfold. And I was just like, so I yelled at her, Ash, get your brother and just go outside, honey. Daddy's fallen down. He's not breathing. The ambulance are coming, but you just need to go outside. So, she kind of just was a little bit in shock, obviously. And then I kind of yelled that again. And then she was like, kind of snapped to it and went and got her brother. And then her brother obviously was like, what's going on? So he's kind of like, you know, craning his
Yeah,
head.
wants
So
to see.
yeah, he wants to know what the hell's happening, and he doesn't see everything, but he just see his dad's arm kind of on the ground in a really awkward way. The paramedics arrived, and at that point, I went out quickly to check on the kids, and luckily, so we live directly opposite the kids' school, and it was parent teacher afternoon, so there were a lot of teachers still at school, and the principal and I had a conversation previously about how we would deal with the scenario if there was an ambulance at my house and the kids were at school. So we talked through this whole scenario before, in assuming the kids would be at school. And I always just said, look, if you can just keep the kids contained, safe, because otherwise it's just going to come out. Like, I just need them, just taken care of. Anyway, so I'm in my backyard and the principal just bolts over and says, do you want me to take the children? And I said, yes, please. Essentially, there was just no getting him back. Yeah, that's the very detailed description of the way it went down.
That just sounds like it was so much fun, and I think that you have got to feel so thankful to have experienced that in your life.
Look, totally. I love hearing sirens now. They're amazing.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, so good. So good. Add it to my playlist.
So you've been through a lot. Your kids have been through a lot. Today is the
Yeah,
3-year death anniversary.
correct.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about what it's been like for Fiona in that time, because now you're no longer we with Wayne,
John Wayne.
with John Wayne. Yes, sorry. Hey, Pilgrim. You're the lone pilgrim here, Fiona. It's been 3 years, but obviously so much happens. Even like the first month, it seems like so much time has gone by and also not that much. Can you
Yeah.
compare this year to maybe last year? How are your feelings of grief? How is your widow brain? How are you functioning comparatively?
My brain seems to be good at compartmentalizing a little bit, which has been really, really helpful. Right up until it doesn't and it breaks. I think, like, the way I've always described it is the first year it was shock. And I mean, despite having 10 months of like anticipatory grief, where I was essentially grieving a person that was sitting right next to me, the first year it was still shock because I just couldn't fathom how this could be my life and how I was waking up and everything would feel okay for a second. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, I'm living in a nightmare.
Feels like rocks just dump all over you.
Yeah, it's like a second you feel okay for a moment, and then it's like everything just like clicks in and you're like, oh
Never mind.
no.
I remember feeling the day after Scott died was actually the very worst for me because I woke up. I'm sure I had taken NyQuil or something, so I slept okay. But I woke up and I'm like, oh, I feel so great. And then I looked over in my bed and my friend was there. Then I remembered. And that was like,
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest pain because it was real.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that. But I think, yeah, first year it was just going through the motions, shock, just figuring out how to do stuff. Like, he was the one who always used to cook. He was a great cook. I
Oh
hate
man.
cooking. I'm a terrible wife. I wouldn't marry me. And so I would like just even just having to cook every day. I was like, this is the worst. And don't get me wrong, my friends were amazing and had like a militarized food drop for months until I said, okay, guys, I now need to put my big girl pants on and learn to cook properly. Like,
You probably
but
regret that now. You're like, can I have some
I
food again?
yeah, totally, totally. I would be definitely happy for that now. I think the kids would too, funnily enough. And then the second year, it was like, okay, I now have, was feeling all the feelings. Like, I think my grief was almost muted in the first year a little bit, and I was just trying to survive. I was just treading water. I was just trying to keep my head above, you know, with work and kids and commitments and like just and death admin. Death admin sucks.
Yeah.
It really does. Like and talking to people on the phone and then having to being transferred to another area and having to re-explain your whole story all over again, being like, yes, husband's dead. I need this sorted, please. Please, can you help me?
And they say, we need to talk to the account owner. You're like,
Yeah, and
he's
they're like,
dead.
and then they transfer you again.
Yeah.
Like,
Fiona, I have a question about life after death. And was there a point where you started to think that maybe you wanted to try to find another relationship? Or are you like, nope, I'm not dating, I'm not doing that?
the first year it didn't even occur to me. The thought of someone being near me, it like gave me the ick. Like, don't touch me, don't come near me. Like, no, I didn't want a bar of it. Um, but then I think as I kind of moved into the second year, I got kind of curious. And quite frankly, I just really missed affection. And I missed being loved and I missed being someone's person. Um, and I was lonely and I still am lonely. It's not a was, I am. But I was like, you know what? Like Wayne wanted me to live my best life. You know, I'm gonna always be very hyper protective of my children. I'm not just gonna be like, you know, dragging men through my house like a with a, you know, rotating door or anything. But I was like, I felt ready just to kind of dip my toe in and explore. So I downloaded a dating app and I was pretty horrified by what I saw.
What did you
What did
And
you,
see?
yeah, what were those things?
oh, look, I mean, between I think what's really interesting is what men think women find attractive.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's really fascinating. I feel like someone should study this. Like, people putting up photos where they're not smiling, they maybe look dangerous and like menacing. You have people who look like Grumpy Cat. Like, you have dudes with like a douchebag gym selfie because they think they look really hot and muscly, but to me, it just gives red flag. Um, you have people who like their comments, like they give themselves away in their comments and what they say, and they spend their whole like about me section kind of talking pretty degradingly about women, either directly or indirectly. I've had a friend's brother who's married swipe on me.
Ah,
Like,
What?
no.
yeah, I don't think he, like, I still need to just to tell him to stop because it's happened a few times, but also I don't think he realizes who I am.
I was gonna ask if he knows,
Does
because
his
that
wife know?
Well, I don't know. That's not from what I can gather, I believe there is a understanding. I don't know. I don't want to know, but I'm like, nope, no deal. Like, So there's that. I've had like people who like you'll start chatting and they want to meet up like immediately, and then I kindly say, I don't know you. I don't really feel comfortable. I've had and I've had this particular person like go down the deep end and say, "What's wrong with you? You have issues." I'm like, not as many as you." Like,
have you ever been on a bad date with any of these people? Or did we not get that far?
oh well, look, I have been on my share of dates now. Absolutely. Um, there's been like, so I've met some lovely people. I've made some friends. I went on a date or two with a widower. He was lovely. So, I don't want to say it's all bad because it's not all bad, but oh my goodness,
It's
it
mostly
is.
bad.
So I've had one guy who I think he looked 15 years older than his picture, didn't seem to understand the concept of personal space as we're ordering coffee. And if you can imagine, I'm standing there and this guy keeps kind of encroaching on my personal space. So I'm moving to the side as we go. And then and in my head, I was immediately like, this is terrible. I don't want to be here. 30 minutes and I'm out. That particular one, he like threw out some really inappropriate conversation topics quite early in quite a crowded, a crowded cafe. I don't think I give off the vibes of someone who wants to talk about a threesome
What?
immediately. Yeah, actually, like what's wrong with this?
Did you even get to the I'm a widow part in a lot of these, or did you just watch the carnage in front of you first?
And also, I've always kind of said that I'm a widow on my profile. I mean, I don't think all men actually read them, quite frankly. I think they just go, hot, not hot. Like, I don't actually think there's a lot of thought a lot of the time. But I always have it there. And it's just for the people who do read, I would prefer them to know before they swipe one way or the other. And it also means that I don't have to awkwardly tell them in person and then have to watch them scramble because they don't know what to say. And then, they tilt their head like a dog and feel sorry for me. Like, I don't want that in a date scenario. So before I've never gone on a date with someone who hasn't known my situation. I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste their time either. And I'm aware, like it's a lot, I think, to even consider dating someone who, in my case anyway, like I'm still in love with my husband. I'm always going to love him. That's never going to change. I like to think that I may find another chapter and I might meet someone who I will love equally. I always think of it like two children. Like when I had my daughter, I thought there's no way I could ever love anything more than this human. And then I had my son. I'm like, hold on, I love him just as much. There's no limit on how much I can love them, but it's different. I love them equally, but differently. And so I like to think about I might find my chapter two, and it'll kind of be like that. But I think in terms of bad dates, there's been a few. The worst one was so I'd sometimes be really efficient and schedule two dates in one night
You got a babysitter.
because I
Yeah.
had baby. Well, it was usually when it happened that I happened to be talking to two people and they both asked me out and it all kind of aligned. I'd never do it if I'd seen them more than once. But for a first date, like it's literally just to be like, hey, do I even like you as a human? So the guy was late. He walks in. He genuinely looks like a cross between Redfoo of LMFAO and Captain Jack Sparrow, which was
Wait,
not which is not what the profile picture looked like.
I don't know what the LMFAO guy looks like, but I know what Jack Sparrow looks like.
He'd booked the restaurant. It was a very sort of small, dimly lit, kind of romantic type restaurant. He walks in already looking nothing like what I had thought he would look like. He sits down. I look down. He has these pointy nails. Like his
Oh,
nails are like pointy and long. And I was just going, what is this? I did not sign up for this. He's clearly he's high as a kite or drunk or both. I'm not sure, but he's definitely on something. And he's sort of half slightly slurring his words. And I'm just going, oh, I just need to get in and get out.
did you just leave? Like, I feel like I need lessons on how to exit those types of
Part
situations.
of me, I'm in two minds. I probably should have walked out, but if I'd walked out, I wouldn't have this story.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
for the greater good, for the plot, I stayed. And anyway, so he's talking and he's sort of talking himself up and trying to impress me with his salary and stuff. And I'm just looking at him going, I don't actually care about any of that. Like, I find that so gross. Like, that's not what actually impresses me about a human. It's like, are you a good human? What do you like to do? Like, you humany things. Money is not the thing that's going to win me over. But already, quite frankly, like, he was already in the bin in my head. But anyway, a little bit in this very moody, dark restaurant, he thinks it's a really good idea to put these flashing green LED glasses on.
Like for St. Patrick's Day.
Like these flashing novelty glasses in the middle of this dimly lit restaurant. I'm like dying on the inside. I'm looking around. Everyone in the restaurant is just kind of like looking, going, what the hell is happening? You know, it's bad when the wait staff are going into the kitchen and you see the chefs poking their heads out to check out this guy. And I'm just sitting there and I kept asking him to take them off because at this point I was like, I'm about to leave, but I'm like, I can't even look at you. My eyeballs are hurting. Can you just take off the glasses? And then at this point, he takes them off finally, and he's like, and he tries to say how much he likes me, but I'm a little bit more conservative than him. And I'm like, yeah, look,
Yeah.
you know what? You're not wrong, and this is not going to work. But you know, thank you for coming, but this is not going to happen.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I can't even, the thing is, I remember at one point sitting there going, I think Wayne is just taking the piss at this point. Like, he is just laughing his ass off. This is hilarious.
Maybe he's sending these jokers to you. He's like,
He's writing his own script.
Yeah.
okay, well, we feel like that's a pretty good crazy story. So we will accept your blinking, flashing green glasses weirdo guy and all of your crazy swipe here, but no thank you.
Yep.
Fiona, what is making you excited about life right now? Like, is there anything that you're looking forward to or feel like is worth living for?
Like, it's not these guys, obviously.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
what else? What else you got?
Look, I mean, as interesting as the dating life seems to be, which, you know, various levels of success, I think I feel like the dust is settled now and I can properly start figuring out like what to do with my life. What do we do now? I sort of like, so I've taken my kids on 2 holidays to places that were on me and Wayne's bucket list. And I'm kind of thinking about what the next one will be. So I think the idea of planning that is pretty exciting.
Fiona, thank you so much for joining us today. Mel has a question. Oh, Mel has a question.
Fiona, what's your favorite cheese?
I love goat's cheese.
Just straight up goat's cheese?
Yeah,
Plain?
with like some plum paste on it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
lovely.
A little sweet and a little goat cheese. You can never go wrong with that. I'm
Yeah, it's so
convinced.
good.
Okay, guys, we've come to the end of our podcast. So this is when we say, if you want to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
Want to buy us tacos or goat cheese or crayons
Or a plane ticket to Australia to visit Fiona in Canberra.
or a horse? Buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
We always like a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
Fiona.
We're just 2 young widows and 1 widow in the middle, in la mezzo. And we're all just trying to figure out, widow,
We
do.
Now?
Mel, can you please tell me how you feel about therapy?
I am so grateful for therapy. I do therapy every single week.
Do you think it's a great tool in the widow's toolbox?
I sure do. I think it's a great tool in anybody's toolbox. And I am so glad that I have stuck with it because as time goes on, there are more things that I am able to learn about myself. That goes for anything from healing from the death of my husband to childhood things to trying to get outside and be social or trying to address my own certain personality. So yeah, it's really been helpful for me.
We have so many people in the Widow Wives Club who have started using BetterHelp and have amazing reviews. It takes away so many of the barriers to getting great therapy.
I know one of the things that's hard for people, and we get this question a lot, it's I need a therapist that does XYZ. Who is a therapist that is going to be widow friendly? And I know that is so hard to find. When I did therapy that was not on this online platform, it was hard. And it's kind of trial and error, kind of like a new medication. honestly, like a new antidepressant. And the way that BetterHelp is set up is it's easy to find somebody that has your specific needs as part of their expertise. And you know what? If you get into a couple sessions with that person and it's not a good fit, it's so easy to change. You can ask some of our friends in the Widow Wives Club. They've changed therapists and gotten one that has been a better fit for them. Well, a lot of them are lucky with who they get first time. I am so grateful for mine. I love her so much, and it's literally changed my life for the better.
This is amazing. So if you guys are wanting to add therapy to your toolbox or need a change in who you're seeing right now, consider checking out BetterHelp. They're one of our sponsors. If you go to trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month of therapy if you sign up with BetterHelp. And let me tell you, the day that I was in the hospital with my dad when he was dying, I was able to instant message with my therapist, and she checked on me all throughout the week. And I was not available for video sessions for a lot of those times because there were things we were dealing with, like mortuary stuff, and I was still able to be in contact with her. So they're very, very responsive, caring. It's such a great platform, and I recommend it to anybody who is looking for therapy.
Once again, it's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
And that's for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
You don't even have to wear pants, Mel.
I know this.
First-hand experience.
You can even wear a onesie.
Or a twosie.
Ooh, scary. All right, bye!